Welcome, everybody, to the 90s Kid YouTube channel. I'm your host, Canadian Matt. I'm with American Matt.
Hello.
And we are debuting our version of the Game Club. If you've ever seen like a book club or maybe the other game clubs around the internet, basically what this consists of is that we'll play a section of a game. You can play a section of a game at home. You can send us your questions or your thoughts to gamethinktalk@gmail.com. And then we'll discuss it. We'll talk about it here. We'll release it with a video of game footage on this YouTube channel that you're watching right now, or we'll also put it out through the podcast, the Game Think Talk podcast. You can subscribe to that on iTunes or through Podbean or even Podomatic. So the game that we're talking about is Majora's Mask, a game released in 2000. This was only 1 year after Ocarina of Time. Actually, Ocarina of Time came out late 1998, but they were saying it took them 1 year of development, which was pretty crazy for such a big game of the time. Now, Ocarina of Time, sold 7 million copies. Majora's ended up selling about 3.36 million. What's even crazier is that the PS2 came out later that year, in 2000, in Japan first and then later on for the rest of the world. So this is very late in the N64 cycle. It still sold pretty well considering, but what they did was they used the same game engine and a lot of the same art assets. Now, Matt, I want to ask, what were your initial impressions when this game first came out and your relationship with Ocarina of Time?
Well, honestly, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing because I'm loving the game right now, but I don't even remember like knowing that Majora's Mask was a thing when it came out. It flew completely under the radar for me, and the Ocarina of Time was such a huge game for me. I was really excited to play it. I remember the first time I actually played it, and I remember this so vividly, even though I was a kid. I was in Target, and they had like a little, kind of like they do at GameStop and game stores, they had a Nintendo 64 set up with a little screen for you to play. And they had Ocarina of Time going on there, and it was one of the very first missions when you're Kid Link going inside the Deku Tree. And I played through probably about 25 minutes of that while my mom was off shopping for something, and I was so blown away. I don't think I was into this game through magazines, or I don't think I saw any commercials or anything like that. I was introduced to it through this little demo at Target, and I was so captivated, and my imagination was just on fire. And I eventually bought it, and still one of my favorite games of all time. And I think it was just so ahead of its time, and it was so unreal. It set the standard that to this day, even though it's a little biased in my memory, I'm probably glossing over a lot of the shortcomings and painting it in an unrealistically beautiful way, but it set the standard that I probably just brushed Majora's Mask aside and said they're just probably riding off the success of Ocarina of Time. There's no way it's going to be as good, certainly won't be better, and I just never got around to it. Even in later years, my friends would talk about their experience with the game. I just did not care. I've never cared to actually go out and play it until very recently.
You would just shout out "boring" and
Pretty
turn on your
much.
Dreamcast.
Exactly.
Come on, guys, let's play virtual tennis.
Yeah.
For me, Ocarina of Time, I was really lucky that when I was growing up in high school, I had a PlayStation and I had a younger brother who went with the N64, so I was able to experience both at the same time. And I look back and think of how stupid it was for me to be a fanboy for one and not just appreciate that and trying to convert my friends from N64 to PlayStation like
Oh, you're one of those.
I know, and I remember actually bringing a friend over, and this is getting a little bit off the beaten path, but I think it's important to the zeitgeist of what was happening back then, and showing him Tenchu and I think Metal Gear Solid, and he left thinking he was going to trade in his N64 for PlayStation, and I was so smug about it. And then he got like an EGM issue that was talking about the new games coming out, and one of them was Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and he ended up going with that, and I, like, being such a little shit, being such a fanboy, not realizing this is better. I could go at his house, play the hell out of N64 games, and get the best of both worlds. And Ocarina of Time was one that he had and one that my brother had. One that my stepmom actually went into the toy store to get my brother a copy for Christmas, and they were all sold out. But she's one of these people that can force her way into any situation. And she actually managed to convince the guy to give her one that was put aside. Some very responsible family, probably a really good parent, called in and said, yeah, I'd like to reserve a copy for my kid. It was the gold cartridge.
Wow.
And my son said, well, I'm here now, so you're going to give that to me. And I was like really impressed and happy that we had this game, but I was also thinking of this other kid who's probably going to have to play something like Goemon's Mystical Ninja Adventure for Christmas
Yeah,
instead.
he probably got like Quest 64 or something instead.
Yeah, they said it was an RPG. So having that was fantastic. I think I played that a lot more than my brother did. And when Majora's Mask came out, it was the same. It kind of came out of nowhere. And I remember going to a friend's house and playing it. And I was such a little shit. God, I hate myself back then. I didn't like the time mechanic. I didn't like the pressure of it. And that really threw me off, and I'd sort of just kind of moved on from there. So I've always been really excited to get back into it, and I'm really glad that we're doing this now. Now, my initial impression from first starting this is that there's a lot of creativity in this game from limitations. And a lot of like songwriters will say if you're stuck writing a song, only use 2 chords and see what you can do to come up with that. And this team only had a year. They had to use the same engine, and they had a very tight schedule, a lot of the same art assets. So they came up with mechanics on that engine. They sort of reiterated on it, and they used time, and they used those masks. And those are these 2 like incredible mechanics for it. And other than that, one of the first things that really sticks out too is how damn dark this game is. How it starts off with that same happy-go-lucky Ocarina of Time music that morphs into that very, very dark music. And you're seeing the moon, and you're seeing the main antagonist. And Link sort of going through this forest. Let's talk about this intro. So Link is on his horse. This is the first Zelda that's an actual sequel that references events that took place before. Link is off looking for someone. He looks like he has been beaten in a battle. He's tired. He falls off his horse, and which is kind of a little bit of a goofy moment, and I like that they do throw in some of these little jokes. And then you get this sort of creepy assailant, the fairies. And like, how did you feel playing through this intro?
It was a little bizarre. I guess I didn't really know what to expect. I had seen pictures of that humongous and frightening moon, so I knew it was going to be a little bit darker in tone. But it was just really bizarre in a good way, in a memorable way. The Skull Kid, the mask-wearing Skull Kid, I literally know nothing about this game. I don't know what happens later. So right now I'm still trying to decide, like, is he going to be the game-long antagonist, or is... we learned a little bit about the mask and how it corrupts people, so I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe he's just a cool guy, a cool fairy-loving person like Link, and he got corrupted somehow. But I was really impressed by how quickly it kind of gets you into the fray and gets you into the game and playing, and how coherently it sets up this narrative.
Now, there's a couple of things you mentioned there. Number one, about not being sure about any of the characters in this game. For one, you end up with your sidekick, that little fairy, who is initially against you, making fun of you, bullying you, and then ends up on your side. And you see later on this masked creature like smack the other one. And this almost like abuse. It kind of reminds me of like spousal abuse right near the end of this section when you first confront him and get the ocarina back. But also with the masked man, not really being sure of who this guy is too. He's definitely freaky. He's got like the creepy transition between his like the happy mask salesman, between his different emotions. Not showing a switch there is obviously very creepy. He ends up helping you later on when he takes the mask off. But so you're thinking he's on your side. He takes the role of a helper and like a quest giver, but really he looks like an enemy. So that's one of the great things about this game is they keep you sort of on edge, and also how fast it gets you into it. One of the reasons I didn't get anywhere in Twilight Princess was how damn slow that game starts, and Skyward Sword too. They take forever, whereas this game throws you right in. They don't bore you with the story or anything. You're just playing this tutorial you don't know is a tutorial, and then all of a sudden the moon starts crashing down at that end of the third day. Now, did you get the ocarina back on your first try, or did you die like I did?
I got it back on the first try because I was just very thorough. I didn't do I didn't really waste any time. I didn't go into all the shops and explore the town. I was pretty objective driven.
Mm-hmm. You're mainlining it.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked, I'm really excited to see how you interact with this town, and there's a lot of people running around in this town, and it's because well, I don't want to spoil anything later on. I know a little bit more about this game as it goes, but another thing I was impressed with in this game is how they don't have very many visual tricks and a lot of graphical power to play with, but they use very sparse like sound effects, no voice acting, and it kind of feels like a kid's play, like a puppet show almost. It's like very kind of over dramatic, and the camera angle zooming in and out. So yeah, I really enjoy the storytelling, and especially I liked the Quentin Tarantino style, the way they kind of titled each day, like dawn, first day, second day. So this is I died actually going through this, and when you die, you actually see a screen that could only be described as, I guess, hell, with a lot of fire and Link looking, incredibly distressed, and then it loops you back to the beginning. So
wow,
yeah, it's and also like getting the different masks, and the way he morphs into whatever mask he puts on is so like disturbing. Even now, I can really appreciate it. Imagine as a kid, to be like a pretty harrowing experience to watch that. What I like is that they start you off as a supreme underdog, and they kind of strip away everything you thought you knew about Link and make you kind of live as this little Deku boy. So how did you like some of the mini games? Did you do any of those running around? I think there's a couple that are necessary in the beginning.
I did. The only thing that I did that I would describe as a mini game as the Deku mask or boy or whatever was I went into this shop that was run by this weird couple that were embracing each other, and it was some kind of target game. This man and woman who run the shop, if you've played the game, obviously you know what I'm talking about. They kind of stand in the middle on this platform, and they're hugging and kissing. And a minigame will start if you pay 10 rupees, and it's these targets that kind of circle around, and you have to shoot your little Deku nuts at it. And it was really difficult to control. I don't think I hit a single target.
Okay.
Yeah, aiming those seeds or nuts or whatever they are was really hard because they kind of curve and you can't tell how fast they go. Oh. So I'm having kind of trouble with that right now. I don't know if that's just me sucking. I haven't gotten used to it yet, but like I didn't have a problem popping that big balloon when I needed to, but shooting the targets as they were moving was pretty much impossible.
Wow, I still didn't have enough time to find my way up to the clock tower, and I didn't even get to that. The only ones that I would call minigames that I got through were, chasing down the gang, so you have entrance.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
North access. Yeah, I think that's pretty mandatory. And then, some of the, and then I guess getting the real estate permit for that little plant.
Yeah.
One powerful moment for me was, as this game starts off and it's so tense and it's so dark, when you finally get to the Astral Observatory, I really, really enjoyed the music. It was like a very sort of wondrous and glorious kind of musical break. And it was the first time anything sounded super happy without that sort of like tinge of darkness to it. Mm-hmm. But it still had a bit of mystery. So I really liked how they did that with the Astral Observatory. They kind of waited a little bit longer until you got there. And that's when it kind of kicked in like, okay, now you're progressing the story. This is where you need to be. And how you need to do it.
That observatory too, I noticed I really enjoyed. I had a huge nostalgic, just Nintendo smack in the face in the observatory because of the rainbow colors as you kind of go up the stairs.
Right.
Everything is kind of draped in these rainbow hues, and there's something about Nintendo. They have some kind of magician that works with them, and their programmers and developers and art designers. They do. I mean, I've seen these colors before. I've seen rainbows before, but there's something about Nintendo games and the way they present color that is so effective, and it like throws fuel on this like little boy fire that lives inside of me that makes me 10 years old again. Right. And I immediately was just taken back to like Rainbow Road and Mario Kart and old and new, like even the very new Mario Kart on Wii U. Like the Rainbow Road is incredible and just gorgeous, and it evokes that same like sense of childlike wonder. And it's in Paper Mario too. I've been going through Paper Mario, the N64 game. I got that through the eShop and been playing that on my Wii U because I wanted to play through it. And that's been awesome. And there's some rainbow moments in that too that I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I mean, something about the way Nintendo does color is just wonderful, and that hit me hard in the observatory.
Yeah, you were saying that about Splatoon as well, a game that's so built on color. And I mean, it's almost like they were looking back at like, what do we do really well, and then went a brand new direction with it. I like even comparing the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, the color was such a huge strength for the Super Nintendo. It was like so bright and colorful and lush. I remember feeling very almost comforted by Super Mario World and how cozy it was, and even how the sound chip was this kind of muffled but more realistic sounding. It was a very cozy sound presentation. The colors were incredible. Whereas you went to say the Sega Genesis, which had less colors, everything looked a little bit paler, a little harsher, and the sound was the same too. It was that FM synth chip, which was cool for like metal sounds and rock sounds, but it was a very, very dark and very alien sound. Whereas Nintendo, I don't know what it is. Now, as we look into the current generation, you're right, Nintendo still seems to be way ahead when it comes to color compared to Xbox and PlayStation. And I wonder if I don't know if it's a hardware or it's the way they program the games, or whether it's just their branding and their philosophy on making games, and that the other third-party developers that are making, say, I don't know, like Tom Clancy's The Division, or like a Halo game, or even Uncharted, they don't pop out with color like Nintendo games do. I wonder if Nintendo's just not afraid of it, if they embrace. They've always liked color. The GameCube was purple, and so was the Super Nintendo with the purple buttons on it.
Yeah.
And it can be a bold choice, and people can maybe dismiss it as being more for kids, but I mean, games are something that, like you said, these colors awaken the kid inside of you, and games are something that were the language and the lifeblood of being a kid, and they filled up your whole day. It was games and imagination, and video games were such an extension of that, and it's nice to see that, and it's cool that Nintendo's kept that going. So
Yeah.
obviously we can't wait to see what's going to happen with the NX and the Zelda there.
Oh yeah.
Just, maybe for a quick sidetrack, what are we hoping to see for a Zelda in the NX? What would make it the best Zelda experience for you?
Well, I mean, we already kind of know the art direction because they have this one kind of cinematic trailer, and it's this a very lush kind of cel-shaded 3D older Link, and he looks kind of very much in the kind of tribal style that you see in Skyward Sword with his clothing, which I like. You know, I like all the Links. I don't think I have a favorite really. I can enjoy every style of Link fits in his respective game series. But what they're really pushing for the NX Zelda, obviously we don't know very much about it, but what we do know is that they're going for a very open world. And there's one little clip of two of the guys, and I should know their names, but I don't, but they're playing just a few seconds of the game, and they're on top of this big mountain looking out, and he's like, you see that mountain and that stream over there, you'll be able to go and explore it. Pretty much anything you see, you'll be able to go to. So they're kind of taking cues from these enormous open world RPGs and games like Xenoblade Chronicles X that just came out on the Wii U, and I think they really want to the thing that'll set this NX Zelda and Wii U Zelda, it'll be coming out for both. The thing that'll set this apart will be just your ability to explore and be fully immersed in this huge Zelda world. Now, the one thing that I have reservations about is since it is the older Link and the style does look a little more mature, I'm hoping that they're still going to be able to retain that kind of sense of whimsy and charm and kookiness that even in a darker game like Majora's Mask is still, you still have this random little like terrier that charges after you and knocks you down in the city square. And like you said, you have those weird kind of cinematic, these cinematic flair things that they do to make it kind of fun. And that's what has always set Zelda apart. I hope they're able to retain that.
Yeah, Zelda does have this quirky kind of, when I think of it, I think of those zoom-ins on Link's face and then the tilt to the side, and that's something that they started doing with Ocarina of Time that I've always really appreciated about it. There was a moment where when you retrieve your Ocarina and you lose the mask to the Happy Salesman takes it off you, and then he's so excited to get the mask from you, and then you don't have it, and all of a sudden the music just stops dead.
Yeah.
And Link tells him that, I don't have that. Actually, I'm not even sure if Link even speaks and says anything, or if he just assumes that because you don't give it to him,
Right.
he doesn't have it. And that's already we've had that like two huge jokes in the middle of a very like serious moment. Whereas like even as he's taking the mask off, it's like so painful and so dark and
Yeah.
just like psychedelic. And then the way he waves goodbye to the mask too is very, very weird, but I really loved all of that.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I was gonna kind of go off on like I'm always looking for like these kind of deeper. I'm like a psychology and I like looking for these kind of deeper esoteric messages in games. And that was kind of like at first when he got trapped by this spell or weird kind of juju cast by the Skull Kid.
Yeah.
That same Deku bush or monster, whatever it was kind of chasing him down. It was like a nightmare, and then it finally catches and engulfs him, and that's what forces him into this mask. And of course, we get the word person from persona, which means a mask, and we all kind of have these obligations to be these certain kinds of people. And I was kind of seeing a little bit of this internal narrative going on, where as Link, I'll have to see how it goes on as he gets more masks, but when he waved goodbye, kind of in a friendly, see you next time way to the Deku monster,
right.
I kind of got that vibe of he's conquering these inner something profound. I don't know where I was going with that, but I was kind of getting that vibe.
Yeah, that's fantastic, actually. And that reminds me of this Japanese philosophy that's strong in their culture of they believe that you wear a different mask for everyone that you deal with. And that I'm going to talk to you differently than I'm going to talk to the postman or say my grandmother, my cousin, my girlfriend, right?
Right.
Especially at night. And so that's pretty interesting, and that must have been apparent when they're making this game and where they come up with that. But yeah, that's a really good point about that friendly goodbye and it being so painful. It's like conquering a fear and then using that which you've conquered that was causing you distress to now become something that makes you stronger in the end.
Right.
And as he goes along. Yeah, there's some really cool themes, and it'll be super interesting to see how it goes. Some other things that they hinted at were as you got to... so have you seen anything about the ending of this game at all? Or any of the story?
I have literally no idea what happens after the point that we are right now. I know nothing.
A little bit of it has been spoiled for me, but as this is a Game Club discussion, we'll only talk about the parts that we've agreed to play to. So I love some of the music in this game, and because of that, I've ended up seeing a little more than I probably should have, but that's fine. Now, what did you think when... There's a couple questions. As you come in and you're on Epona, so the game assumes you know Ocarina of Time, that you know Epona.
Right.
It says that Link is after a friend. So who did you have an idea of who that might be? Whether it might be, I was thinking it could either be like Zelda, or I'm noticing that, and this has nothing to do with the spoilers I was talking about earlier. There's Navi's not there as well. So did you think it was either Zelda or Navi?
Actually, Navi is what I assumed, because, and also I thought maybe I was wrong because we came upon those two other fairies, and then once they turned friendly, or at least that one turned friendly and kind of joins you, I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe we're getting a new fairy sidekick. Right. But at the beginning of the game, when I was going through that kind of exposition and telling you what's going on, that was my first gut instinct. If it's not Navi, I doubt it's Zelda, because obviously it shows her kind of giving you the ocarina as you guys part. And right. I'm assuming she's not in any kind of trouble. The only character that I can think of, and I don't know her name, there's this, are they called Zora, the water people?
Yeah, that's right.
There's, in Ocarina of Time, don't you meet this princess, like as Kid Link and Adult Link, there's like a Zora princess that you help out?
Yeah, she's the one you have to carry through Jabu Jabu's belly, and she grows up to be a total babe.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like maybe like a callback to, that's the only other like kind of damsel in distress I can think of, but it could be nothing like that. It could be some dude, or it could be somebody we don't know yet. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I like that we don't know, and I like that they don't hit you over the head with it and that you figure it out as you're going along. It keeps it very interesting. I wish more games would learn from this tutorial. One quick sidestep: I was when I was making that Evolution of Call of Duty video, it was amazing how much longer the tutorials got throughout the games. Whereas the first half of these Call of Duty games, you just started off right in the middle of like a D-Day invasion. It was super fun. And the later ones were like, go to the training range, aim a gun, shoot it. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
a lot of people only play Call of Duty games. They don't need to know how to aim and shoot every single time. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Navi was gone, and I'm wondering if part of that was like, did you find Navi annoying? I think that I still liked Navi a lot from Ocarina of Time. Her "Hey, listen" was used a hell of a lot, and when the bad guy smacks the other fairy, I'm like, I would have wanted to do that to Navi at some points, but also would never do that. So I think it characterizes the bad guy that way. So I was thinking maybe it was. I thought it was originally Zelda just because I always think of like Link and Zelda, and her name's in the title. But yeah, when you finally see her, it kind of seems like that's it. That's a closed door. Just a quick memory of her. Maybe she'll appear later on. I don't know. We haven't seen anything about Ganon at all, which is pretty interesting that they're moving away from that. I don't know if he's going to show up later on, if he has anything to do with it. Maybe he's the guy handing out the masks, but there is a lot of mystery.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
They've said the only clue they've kind of given us to the ending is when that fairy does get smacked. Obviously, it was something important when she said you need to talk to them and bring them here, those different elements. So that seems to be the main quest. Instead of finding 3 pieces of a Triforce, we need to find the 4. It was like water, wind,
swamp. It was like like swamp, mountain, desert. I could be making it. One of them is definitely swamp.
Swamp, which is kind of like earth and water meeting. But
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. What I'll do. Did you have anything else that was really sticking out for you with this section?
No, it's just like a great mystery ahead of us. I'm excited to keep playing.
Exactly. So in order to coordinate this, what we'll do is me and Matt will figure out how far ahead you guys should all play, or you can play at your own pace, or if you've just beaten the game, then obviously keep tuning in. I'll release a quick video and a quick podcast about where you guys should go play ahead to. Definitely email us at gamethingtalk@gmail.com, and we will read any of your questions or interesting thoughts about the game on air. And until then, have fun out there.
See you guys.